Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 14 of the Backspace Nomads podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brian, and the other host for this wonderful show is Monica. How are you doing, Monica? Hello.
I'm doing great.
On the pod today, we're going to be reviewing the indie game early access of Guts and Glory. Our guest for the show is Okaydrian, where he'll come on to debate esports and its athletes and then take part in his time of game. So Monica, how have you been this week? You having a good one?
No.
No, why not? It's very decisive.
I feel as though we all should quit our jobs.
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, let's all quit our jobs, everyone.
In 2 weeks, you won't see me, motherfucker.
You know what? I go through these weird phases in my life. I love working, and I actually enjoy the approach of just getting tasks done, which makes me sound a little bit like a monkey or like limited. But I enjoy work. I enjoy even physical work. It's enjoyable. But some weeks, I just think I'm supposed to live in a cave somewhere and find a nice mountain man and leave it all behind.
You got a hibernation week. You need a hibernation week.
Yeah,
just crawl in for the winter.
Yeah, some weeks I just think I'm supposed to leave it all behind me, I do love my job, but this is one of those weeks where I'm like, even just, is it right to love my job, and should I be in a cave right now? So I've been, having an existential type of crisis going on. Yeah. It's like if every 3 months this happens. There's probably something with the constellations that's causing it, or if I went to a psychic, they could probably.
Are you a scientist?
Yeah. So yeah, it's just been a weird week for me. Just been really, really busy. I haven't even been able to play many games, which maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
But I did get the game that we're playing tonight.
Guts and Glory.
Guts and Glory. So I'm prepped for that. How about you? What you been up to?
Nothing exciting. Just I went to Epcot and did their Garden Festival, which is just like a food and wine tasting event, and I dropped too much money trying little tiny cups of beer. It's like a 4-ounce cup, and you pay $5 for it, and you're supposed to feel magical about yourself.
Oh yeah, I mean the littler your food and your drink is, the better it is.
Yeah, so apparently we had the best food and the best drinks because that shit was tiny.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks.
Sounds wonderful.
So earlier this week I was reading this article on Polygon, and I kind of shot your way to check out because it was about Bioware and them continuing to make games in an open world sense and taking their RPGs all into open worldness. And I found it a really great conversation and a great starting point for the conversation about open world, because that's what all the games strive to be now, ever since games like The Witcher, Fallout, they all want to be open world. And so, but there are trade-offs to doing that, and I guess Polygon decided to take a shot at Bioware because they're the biggest offenders. What did you think of the article?
Here's the thing. We're a podcast that gives opinions.
We give a damn.
We give opinions. We have opinions on things, and everyone's got an opinion on things. And I certainly have an opinion on this article, but alongside wanting to be in a cave, I'm just wondering if anyone should have opinions on shit. That's kind of where I'm at this week.
Can't we all just sit there and stare at each other?
I get can't we just freaking all just stare off into space?
Just
lobotomize.
One continuous family reunion, just sitting there, rubbing your knees all right, this has been fun.
I agreed with certain points in this article, and we can share that on our Twitter as well. If you guys follow us, it's at Backspace Nomads. We can share that article on the Twitter. So that you guys
plugs
can read
are so
it and get your
smooth, by the way.
Yeah.
That was like butter.
Woohoo. But I guess from one of the things that they talk about in this article is that people have gone from, these are the best games ever to these are enjoyable games, I guess, if I have the time.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that in the sense, but is that because they're going into open world, or is it just because of the content of their open world? And why are like games like The Witcher so good? I feel like the article left a lot to be considered. I think that, we do need really, really strong developers to be taking on different types of games. The fear out there with even in the indie space is that you have too much repetition, you have too many people copying the same ideas and not introducing enough newness, and you have people following the audience towards a direction of open world. Everything has to be open world, and what does that do to games? I guess my question for that is, are the games less interesting because they're open world and they don't make great open world games? Or is just open world something that is being overdone at this time, and we need some strong developers creating, the standard RPG? I don't know.
Well, let me
what about you?
put this like question to you, because this is all I could think about when it went to it. It was like Lord of the Rings, right? Would Lord of the Rings be as good of a series if you just got dropped a bunch of different pages and essays and you just kind of like picked and choose your way through it? You know what I mean? I think the article talks about BioWare losing how good of a narrative they could construct, and I think it's very important in gaming, and we do lose it because of open world. Like, all right, now Frodo is starting in this village. Now Frodo's going across the valleys and rivers and to the towns. Like, you go on a journey with Frodo, and the story wouldn't be as good or as impactful if it wasn't told to you and given to you in a certain order. That's important. And I don't think too many developers think that way when they're considering to let's put this in an open world. They just want the big selling point about the open world, and it feels really nice and it feels big and connected. And the article talked about how BioWare used to just like every game they put out, it was like 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. And then all of a sudden they started going open world, and it's like, where'd you go, BioWare? Where'd the greatness go? And that might be what my point is on like how a narrative is given to you, or it could just be that people move on from BioWare and go to other companies.
But I don't think that necessarily has to be lost in an open world. One of the things, like, they bring up The Witcher 3, and that is a story. I mean, in my opinion, it's open world. You can go do different quests and everything, and you have the main storyline, but it's just done in a way that's like, I don't know, I felt really immersed in it.
Sure.
But I do think that there needs to be games out there that have structure, and since BioWare was so good at that, following the idea of open world, we're really missing out on something. We need different variables out there in order to choose from. So
yeah,
I agreed in that sense. I also think it's up to us as consumers to make that hard stance, though. If we don't want just open world games, then we have to stop buying every open world game that gets dumped out there.
Gamers don't work together. We're not unionized. We buy the hype machine, hook, line, and sinker. It'll never work.
Right. And so it puts pressure on these developers to put games out there that are following what the masses are going to buy. And then even if the masses bitch about it, that's still what they're buying. I mean, that goes along with like other things with early access and other things that we've talked about in previous podcast shows. So I don't know. I agreed with the article wholly. I think we need some, we need to use our buying power to show developers that we enjoy what they do. And I hope that BioWare kind of jumps back into
shape up BioWare. They used to be so good.
Yeah. But if not, you know what? We're just all a bunch of assholes with opinions, and we can't just live in caves. If anyone wants to join me, I'll be in the Appalachians.
You could just come stare at me.
Use your best bird call. We'll just stare at each other.
All right, well, let's move into our review for the week of Guts and Glory from developer Hackjack Productions. You can find it on Steam for $9.99. It is early access, published by Tiny Build, It's a indie casual obstacle racing game. The game is about a father and a son riding their bicycles through an obstacle course of death and other fun family experiences. What were your initial expectations going into Guts and Glory?
So my family, to kind of go along with the weird setting that I've created for this podcast, my family really did bond over a lot of death growing up. So my expectation was that I was going to once again be able to feel that bonding experience from all my relatives passing on in my youth. And so I was very excited. No, I'm just kidding. I looked at this game and I thought Goat Simulator.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I was just like, this is Goat Simulator, but with a man on a bicycle with his child. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I was expecting that kind of wonky, attitude towards a game, just kind of running around and experiencing like more ridiculous situations. So yeah, that was my expectation for the game. What about you?
I seen the video for this. God damn it. I seen the videos and the previews and trailer for this game, and immediately I just thought it was like Tarantino on a bicycle. Like, it's hyper violence, things are getting cut off, limbs are gonna go missing, and I was kind of excited. It usually takes us a few tries to go through and find what game we were really interested in to review on the pod. And I seen this one. It was the first one I looked at of the day, and immediately I was like, "This is it. Let's do this." So that is where I was coming from. Once you loaded it up, what were you liking about Guts and Glory?
Okay, so I'm gonna. All right. I started this
Pace
game
yourself.
All right. I started it up, and the first obstacle course you go through, and I'm gonna give you guys some spoilers here. All right, you go through this obstacle course, and I'm just having a good old time. I'm biking. I'm making some sharp turns. I'm feeling pretty good, and I get through the first obstacle course, which is basically just go in a straight line and win. I'm like, I got this. This game is like, I can do
Made
this
for you.
game. Yep. I'm
Finally.
like, I went in a straight line. I won. Nothing bad happened to me. I'm liking it. A few obstacle courses in, I was just like, okay, I was just going on the course. I made a sharp turn going in a straight line, and all of a sudden I was chopped in half because I'd apparently landed on an explosive device. And I was just like, that's what's gonna happen to me in this game. And then it progressively gets more and more difficult. So I will say the first time I died, it scared me. I wasn't expecting it because it was a landmine, and I got very nervous after that. It wasn't that I was necessarily attached to my child or anything for that matter, but I just didn't want to die.
Yeah.
But the death was fun.
Dude, the first time I realized what this game was gonna be, like playing it, like inside, is when there was a hook hanging down, like you're going into like the finish line, and it hooks your baby's head and just picks it up off your bike, and like you go through to the checkpoint and you win the level, and you're like, oh, okay. So yeah. they don't mind goring a fucking child in this game.
Oh yeah,
these developers.
No, if you lose your child, if your child dies, you can continue.
Yes.
If you die, you have to restart. But if you lose your child, you've still won, I guess.
Yeah, he has no skills yet.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess the death was like, it was a fun element. I enjoyed it. Yeah. And it's, it contradicts the scenery that you're placed into. So.
It's a very Pleasantville setting.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think that's one of the main things I liked about the game is that they wanted hyper violence. They weren't afraid to go after it. And you play through it, and you can have your legs or your arms like completely chopped off, and you're just riding on the bicycle like a stump, getting through the level. Like, I love someone not caring that they're gonna offend or gross people out.
Yeah, you definitely like you can lose an arm and you'll just keep going with one arm. Like it's all about the race, you got to make it.
One arm John.
I also liked the characters. You unlock different characters as you go along. There's the main character, which is the dad on his bike, and I think that one's my favorite just because it's so pleasant. You have Earl, who is like a redneck. He's kind of like a hillbilly character. You have the Yang family, which is driving like a little import vehicle.
Just like backhandedly
There,
racist.
and then yeah, and then there's this older guy. I think he's like a rocket scientist or something like that, and he's a little bit funky too. So the characters I thought were fun. They were unique enough. It was fun getting to the point where you achieved them.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
I think the last thing I kind of really liked, besides it just being like a obstacle course game with bicycles, which is like always fun, is the community made maps and the level editor that are in the game right when you buy it. So not only does that just open the game up to longevity, it's really fun to go in there, mess around with the level editor, and then see how tragically you can murder your baby and yourself. What are some of the things that you were disliking?
Well, wait. I really liked the music too.
Did you?
I thought the music.
Dude, we do not go. We do not like groove on music.
No, we don't. That's fine though. We can still get along, right? Right?
Yeah,
right?
Sure. It's cool.
Okay.
How's Apple? Can you just go sit in the Appalachian Mountains and listen to your horrible music?
Okay, so the music in this is cliche to me. It sounds like an 80s like Home Alone type like feel. I don't know. It's like pleasant and just upbeat, and it feels like you're like in maybe a 90s like PG or PG-13 movie. You know, there's some like you're in that movie that has. And I don't feel like they do this a lot now because either we've grown as a society or possibly we haven't grown as a society. But there's not a lot of nut kicks
Trump's
in movies
president.
anymore.
We're not growing as a society.
Okay, but there's not a lot of nut kicks in film anymore. And you know, like in the 90s and 2000s, like every film had like everybody got kicked in the nuts. And this game has kick in the nut music.
Yeah,
I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's your jam, kicking the nut music.
Yeah, it was. But you didn't like the music, it sounds like.
No.
Your nose.
Yeah, let's go. Like going into things we disliked, I thought the music was nut kicking music. It was pretty lame. Like I'm playing it. I'm just like, okay, here this is. Let's move on. Like it didn't annoy me, but it definitely didn't add to the game for me. A little bit forgettable for myself. I also didn't really like the controls on the keyboard. I know you can pick up an actual controller, but I couldn't find mine, so I was rocking a keyboard for this game, and I just found it to be very unresponsive and very hard to turn and do flips and stuff. And for a game where that's what you're doing, not too good. Hackjack, not too great, my friends.
Yeah, I really did not like the graphics.
No.
Like the people were their faces were fun enough, but when you're like seeing them and selecting them, the imagery there was good, but the actual obstacle courses are just so bad.
Yes.
And I want them to be a little bit better. I don't know. I get that this game's like kind of hokey and not taking itself too seriously, but like I feel like they could have just gotten some better skins. Mm-hmm. For like some of these things. I don't know. It left a lot to be desired for me.
Absolutely.
And also, you have these like kind of funky characters, which I like, but then the character interactions are just like you don't care about your kid at all, which I guess maybe is good because then if you cared about your kid at all, it would be really devastating every time its head gets hooked on or blown up. But there are like sometimes random people standing around in these obstacle courses, and they don't cheer for you. They don't really do anything. I wanted just some more interaction. I wanted the dad to say like, "Oh shit, Billy, be careful." Like that would have fucking rocked if I was trying to save Billy and his head got hit. And I'm like, "Billy, no, Billy." Like that would have fucking made that a little bit better for me. So I felt like the interactions with the characters was lacking,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that kind of ties into what my biggest dislike for the game is that the levels just don't necessarily feel enjoyable, and you don't feel a sense of accomplishment getting through them. It's just kind of like easy, turn here, dodge this, and then you're at the finish line. And I didn't go through one where I was like, man, that was really tough. Thank God I made it through. I'm an amazing gamer. I just kind of, I could zone out and get through all the levels.
Okay,
And that was...
well, don't brag or anything. Like, Maybe
I'm
some
sorry.
of us don't get through the levels as easily as you, Brian.
Well, you know, I don't want to like act like I'm the better gamer on this show.
You're not. Okay.
I'm sure there are games like Age of Conan or Game of War, Clash of Clans, maybe that you would dominate me in, but hand-eye coordination.
Okay, dude, I saw you freaking play Tomb Raider.
Dude, my Tomb Raider skills were fantastic.
I saw you get stuck on that one goddamn part for like 35 hours. Okay, anyway. But I guess the last thing that I really didn't like is like, and let me clarify this for me. There is no there's no multiplayer option on this, right?
Not that.
This game would be fucking phenomenal.
Yes.
For multiplayer.
Yep.
It would be so fun to watch your friends' children get murdered.
Like seeing who could kill their kid faster.
Yeah, it would be so fun to be riding alongside on our bicycles with you, Brian, and me just nudge you into a landmine. Like, that's what I wanted out of this. And it only had single player. And I really feel like if it was multiplayer, like, I would have really been enjoying it a lot more. It's not that it was it's not that it wasn't enjoyable. It just feels like more of a multiplayer game.
Right. All right. Well, with that, let's go into our final thoughts. What are your final opinions on Guts and Glory?
So I actually, as I was playing this, I had a thought that came to mind that kind of summarized it. I really love GTA, and I love racing in GTA. I love, like, you know, the competitiveness there, and like the wonkiness of the characters, you know, all of that. And I felt like this was an indie version of GTA 5 with poor graphics and no friends.
Okay. So, thumbs down?
I am a thumbs down on this one. You know, it is early access. They might add more content. Yeah. I think it's very close to being there. I do think that the fact that you can create, you know, like what you said, they have the ability to like create user created obstacle courses and everything really adds a fun dynamic to it. But I'm not in love with this concept enough to really give it a thumbs up.
Right.
So yeah, I'm gonna be thumbs down.
I think I'm gonna give it a unenthusiastic thumbs up. If you're gonna pay $10 to see a ridiculous game, they deliver that. It's really funny to see the blood and gore and go through everyone lose their limbs when you're driving around with the car with the Asian family, seeing like the daughter and the wife being propelled from the car. Like, it is funny at times with that.
It sounds so fucking
I know
when we're talking
like
about
if you take
like,
this whole conversation
when that Asian family gets their fucking daughter, their wife, like whatever.
Yeah, this is how people get in trouble with context, is like talking about games like this. Like,
you're gonna be quoted later on when you're running for, like, you know, mayor of your city.
Of San Francisco, you know, they'll love me there with this. So it's $10. It's definitely, it feels like the game has a future. This is a game you'll probably go back to once there's more user-created content, developer-created content. I think it's a justifiable purchase. I'm just not overwhelmingly into it. So that is Guts and Glory from Hackjack Productions, published by Tiny Build. You can find it on Steam for $9.99. And with that, we're going to cut to intermission, and when we come back, Twitch TV's own Okaydrian is going to join the pod. We'll be right back, everybody.
Woo!
Welcome back to the Backspace Nomads podcast, episode 14. Our guest on the pod today is Okaydrian. You can find him on Twitter at Okaydrian and on twitch.tv/Okaydrian. Welcome to the podcast, man. How are you doing tonight?
A little rough. I keep coughing, and I was in perfect health like last night. And ever since you were like, "Hey, man, is your mic working?" It's been like, Yep. Sounds good, man.
You.
I'm sorry, man.
Like it.
I hang out with a lot of Haitians. They taught me the voodoo.
It's working. I've gone through like 5 Alka-Seltzers and to the point they're tasting good now.
I'm loving
Like they had this new cherry flavor I didn't know about, and they're so good. Is that bad?
No. I mean, it might not be great for you, but
What
spiritually it's
happens
probably
if
good.
you eat too much Alka-Seltzer?
I don't know. Like there's warnings in the side, but like who really reads those?
No, it's like, oh, only take 2. Here's 6 of them.
That's like the number one leading cause of death for actors and actresses, right?
Alka-Seltzer.
Yeah.
Well, isn't there like a urban legend that if you eat a bunch of Alka-Seltzer and then drink a soda, you explode? Let's try it on tonight's
All
stream.
right.
I mean, if you really want to, I have Alka-Seltzer left. We can do this right now.
Yeah, we got nothing but time here.
Yeah.
Good.
Perfect.
Now we're bringing you the real life version of Guts and Glory with Okaydrian.
Perfect lead-in.
Yeah. So Okaydrian, thanks for joining us. Tell us about yourself. Age, sex, location. You don't have to answer that.
It's been such a long time since I've heard that. It's kind of thing where I feel like I'm showing my age when people talk about that kind of thing, because my first instinct is to actually respond and go, "Oh, well, since you asked, 14F Cali,"
Yeah.
which was always the answer.
That was my real answer though for a while. Well,
You're a California girl?
Yeah.
I didn't know that, dude.
Dude, yeah, no, I was born in Pomona.
What if we were the ones on the opposite ends of the spectrum? We never knew it. Like you were actually the one typing to me, and I was typing to you.
Oh my God, that
Ox.
probably happened.
Oh, speaking of awkward,
Ships in
I'm
the night.
Adrian.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
awkward. I don't know so much to say. My name is Adrian. I go by Okaydrian. Streamer on Twitch.tv. Full-time, partnered. I do hosting stuff for Twitch. Just came back from C2E2. Did that. I live with the cat. I did meet Stan Lee. He touched my knee.
He touched his knee.
That's my one claim to fame.
Bucket list stuff right there.
It is. And surprisingly, for being like 90 years old, I don't know if it's just age or wealth, but the dude has such warm hands.
He's still got a good
Age
grip.
or wealth?
Yeah, like I don't know if like when you get older, do you just like have enough money where you're constantly in a state of warmth?
I don't know. Maybe
has
it's
hand
just
warmers
his,
in every
his
pocket.
shining personality. You know, you have to be a certain type of person to like create that much. And I imagine he just has an inner warmth about him that expels all the way to his fingers and toes, which I personally don't have, and that's why winter's so tough on me. They swell.
Yeah, you are. They swell. Your hands do.
Is it just like
Yeah,
Adrian
dude.
comes on and we just get completely weird and awkward? Like the switch is on. Let's do it. Like
Okay, you know what? It might actually be that because I'm very used to being weird around Adrian.
It's the proximity vibe that I give off. Like when you're around me, you can't help but feel weird too.
I'm a little
yourself.
tired. But yeah, you know what? Whatever. It's just I just know you're gonna be able to roll with it, you know? And that's one of the cool things about you just as a streamer, also as a host, like you are capable of just rolling with things. And I feel like it would be really hard for me to say anything that would shock you. So I will say as many things as I possibly can tonight to try to shock you. And then what will happen is that people that listen to the podcast are just going to stop listening.
Yeah. We're offending all the Asians and like,
Actors and actresses who have loved ones who overdosed on drugs.
yeah, the
Yeah.
company
Sorry,
Alka-Seltzer. You know, go screw yourself.
I think a lot of that is because I'm tempered from the internet. You know, like your
Yeah.
first foray into the internet, like years ago, like when you first
We're
started getting
weathered.
into the areas of you're weathered, right? You start meeting and talking to weird people, and then you find out, man, everyone's like this. They just hide it.
Mm-hmm.
The first
Yeah,
time
I
I
don't
saw
know
Two
why
Girls, One
either.
Cup, oh my God, my life changed forever.
Yeah. We're just weathered.
Who knew I liked all that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would never have known. Thanks, internet.
There's a subreddit for everything, man.
All right. So the first segment Adrian's going to take part in with us is a point counterpoint. In this segment, Adrian and Monica will both take a position in an argument that they don't necessarily agree with. They will take the absolute shining light of that argument in its best light and fight for it to the death. Adrian is coming on as a guest, so all of his opinions are made up. This is like Monica's confessional where the real Monica comes out. All
That's
right?
not true.
So
Real Monica.
This is it. God damn it.
no, it's
I have no opinions. Oh yeah, I did say that at the beginning of this. That was like my asterisk.
Yeah.
Like, for right now, I'm like, go back to the beginning of this podcast and remember when I said that no one should have opinions.
And here's a
Ever.
point.
Now
counterpoint.
listen to mine.
Yeah. So on point counterpoint today, we are going to be debating esports athletes. Are they the ultimate athletes or are they the worst athletes? And they should just be embarrassed for having that title. Adrian will be taking the position of esports athletes being the penultimate or the ultimate in athleticism, and Monica taking that they are the worst. Adrian, you're the guest. We'll start with you opening arguments.
Yeah, sure. I mean, to me, it seems like the kind of thing that might be like, oh, this is no brainer. They're not athletes, but I would argue different. They are the ultimate athletes. I mean, when I think about athletes, the first thing I think about is when they start off, which is like junior high, high school, grade school, like the little junior league, softball leagues when everybody kind of sucks, right? And it's like, whatever. But those athletes, like, they're all physical prowess, right? Maybe you're lucky enough to be big. Maybe you're not. You come from a nice family, a lineage, a last name. No one's going to make fun of the top quarterback or the varsity basketball player, that kind of stuff. So they have years and years of just riding the top with no real mental roadblocks in the way. Whereas esport athletes, from the very moment that like they come out of the womb, they're doomed for like years and years and years of mental anguish nonstop all the way through high school. So while real athletes are in the gym or they're outside doing their 2-a-days and going to parties and they're arm in arm and they're like, yeah, illegal drinking.
Dude bros.
Right, dude bros or dude gals or gal bros. Gal girls?
Gal girls.
People. They're doing all this stuff, right? But the esports athletes, you know what they're doing? They're the ones at the lunch table having food thrown at them while they're playing D&D. They're the ones in their Game Boys in a lonely corner of the room while people are making them eat spider webs. And it's that mental prowess and toughness that they carry with them as like a scarlet letter throughout their entire life. So when they're 30 years old and real athletes are starting to break down mentally and their body's breaking down and decomposing, esport athletes, nothing can break them at that point. They've seen it all, been through it all.
So, Monica, do you just not like people escaping their genetic birthright? Should people only do great things if they're born with physical attributes? What's wrong with you? Your response.
Okay, the first thing I want to point out here is the only thing I heard that sounded athletic in that is dodging food. Okay, here's the reality of the situation. All right, you got professional cooks, you got chess players. None of them have to say that they are athletes, and gamers should not either. Think about Dragon Force. So when I think about the hardest going gamers, I think, here, hold on.
Ooh.
You hear that? All right.
Yeah.
That is a gamer. All right. You know what? Other people that do that, porn. People in porn move their fingers really fast. Dragon Force. The band, they move their fingers really freaking fast. I don't know if you guys have watched those videos. I mean, the just all over that, the guitar, and they're not athletes. And so I just don't think that gamers need to say that they are athletes. They are not athletes. They are the worst athletes of all time. The only thing that they do is move their fingers, their eyeballs, and their brains probably twitching a little bit. And then outside of that, the most athletic thing that they've done is dodge sandwiches in the lunchroom.
Well, Adrian, it sounds to me like you think people with fast fingers can have the right to athleticism.
I do believe that. I mean, if porn stars want to call themselves athletes, they can do that as well. But at the same time, what's their focus? Move their hips a bit more, take a break, be fluffed up. I mean,
Be fluffed up.
Esport athletes aren't going through that. Look at Dragon Force. They're on stage doing the but their opponent is themselves, and that's it. Or maybe Guitar Hero if they're lucky. Esport athletes, we're talking about people who are facing people day in and day out online, multiple competitors. So, like, when I think of esport athletes, I think about they're the ultimate walk-on competitor, right? So when I think about real athletes, whether it's football or American football or softball or basketball, whatever it is, like they're going all the way through high school and college. They have a pedigree. They're at Georgia Tech. They're first-round draft picks, AA games, AAA games. They're going through all these ringers just to be chosen, hopefully, to be on a team. Whereas like esport athletes, what's their comeuppance? If they're in college, no one's going to say, hey, man, tonight, Division I, you're facing Georgia Tech or Georgetown. Good luck. No, they're facing thousands of people online nonstop using hand-eye coordination, dexterity, clicking. And by the way, if you had kept clicking for another 10 seconds, I promise you would have been out of breath and or sweating, which is why they're so trained for this stuff. They're like Mark Wahlberg in Invincible, the ultimate underdogs, where you're like, they're walking on. Oh, my God, I hope they make it. Oh, my God, they made the TSM. And you cheer for them because that's the athlete that you can personally see yourself being one day. They're reasonable athletes.
Well,
they're personable.
It's swaying me. Monica, it sounds to me like you only like people who have planned out lives, and you hate walk-ons. Why? You don't like Rudy?
Oh my god. I hate Rudy. All right? No.
All right, coach.
All right, look. You know, you talked about sweat and how if you were, you know, if I'd been clicking a little bit longer, you know, I might have been sweating. Well, I sweat just from this debate because of nerves. All right. My feet sweat like 13 hours a day without me doing jack shit. So I don't think sweat actually counts for jack shit. And I actually have a very good point here on sweat. You know, I want to measure an athlete. We're talking about esports athletes. You know, if I want them to just run around the block, something I can't even do, and I want them to do it, and then I want to measure the amount of butt sweat that they have, and then I want to put them up on a stage, having them click away, and I want to measure the amount of butt sweat that they have, and I am guaranteeing you that they will have more butt sweat from running around the block, while real athletes run around that block for their entire fucking lives. They never stop running around that planned block, and they love it. And that is passion, and that's a real fucking athlete.
Adrian, are you open to a butt sweat test?
I am, because that's what makes people like them marketable, because that's the kind of thing that us weirdos on the internet look forward to. I'm not going to buy LeBron James's shoe or Tony Romo's shoe when knowing that's made from some poor child in some country that I probably can't even pronounce, and I feel bad for it and think, I can't spend $140 on this, and I won't play like any of them. But if I see someone like Faker, if I see PR Belrog coming out with a new scent called Ode to Butt Sweat, I know that I've been there. I know what that's like. I know what the butt sweat's like. I know I can get his butt sweat being a not so good basketball athlete or being the premier fighting game athlete. And seeing myself in that, and I sprayed on me, and I go, you know what? Today I feel like PR Belrog. Today I feel like I can go on a 30-game winning streak. I feel like today I can have an Evo moment, and all it takes is one spritz. You know why? Because esports is the future. Take any movie, all right, that emulates the future. Let's take Terminator Salvation. Let's take a Wall-E. I don't see anyone doing the slam dunks. I don't see any home runs. I don't see any touchdowns. I don't see any trades. You know what I see? People who are slightly not in the best condition, which I'll give you, sitting in chairs, being esport athletes. I see John Connor in the field with 5 people left in the entire human race because the rest are downstairs being cyber hacksters because they're esport athletes. Because they're the athletes that are going to be the savior of this dying planet, who some say we have 5 billion left. I say like 5 years. So in 5 years, I give my chances to the esport athletes, not these other ones who take endorsements from far-off countries.
Monica, it sounds like you're living in the past and you want the earth to die. Final arguments.
My final argument, and unless in the future these definitions start to change, is that an athlete is defined as a person who is proficient in forms of physical exercise. And I guess my final statement here is that if the physical exercise that an esports athlete is the same amount of physical exercise that I feel when I've had a difficult time, I've eaten too much red meat, and it's time to release it, then I cannot consider an esport athlete to be a true athlete. Otherwise, I am a true athlete.
Adrian, do you consider riding the porcelain throne athletic? Your final arguments.
Yeah, it does take a great amount of physical prowess. I mean,
Aw,
the butthole's only made the stretch so far, but it makes room somehow.
Somehow.
And like times change with anything. Definitions. I myself hate the fact that epic no longer means this grandeur, spacious thing like space or notion. Now it means I found a deal on Pringles at 7-Eleven. That's epic. Because definitions change, just like the definition of an athlete changes as we change as human beings. We're working ourselves forward and backwards, and I think esport athletes are filling that gap of what an actual athlete should be. They're role models. They don't beat people up. They don't do drugs. The worst thing they do is Snapchat their dick, maybe, and argue on social media. So I want to see in 5 years Webster's Dictionary defining athlete like that, not these other disreputable human beings.
It's a tough call here on point counterpoint, and sometimes you don't know who to tip the win to. But anytime someone can make an argument about or winning an argument with the idea of rocking back and forth on a toilet, Adrian, I have to give you the win on this point counterpoint. Gamers are athletes, and they might just be the ultimate athletes in the world. I'm sorry, Monica.
Oh, I tried my
That was
best.
Every gamer out there who wants to be somebody. This is your chance to say you've done it.
And please don't hate me.
Send her hate mail on Twitter.
Yes.
Show your esports
Tweet
prowess.
No.
Show her those
Oh
words
my
per
God.
minute.
Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations, Adrian.
Give it up for Adrian.
A
What a
debate,
champion.
Aw,
An
thanks, Monica.
absolute debate, well won, and well prepped for it. By the way, you were I think my hardest competitor. Normally, I just say such ridiculous. I mean, truthful and personal. My truly personal feelings on the matter so strongly that I kind of bulldoze over people, and you just wouldn't let that happen. I think you might be the ultimate athlete there. So,
Aw,
yeah,
damn
dude.
it.
Yeah,
That's so nice of you to say.
well,
You know
it's
what?
Easy. It's easy to say.
I would have a LAN party with you anytime,
Aw, dude.
right?
Shucks. So now that you've bested me, it's time for stories.
Oh,
Because
Story
that's the
time.
only way that I can, regain from my loss here is to hear some elements of your life that you just open up to. So we're going to jump into a segment called the time of game. For those of you guys listening that are not aware of what the time of game is, it is basically a story mode. We take our guests and we have them share a story about their life with a game running in the background. Most of us have experiences, and we also have a game that we were interested. Well, all of us have experiences, and we all have games that we were interested in that time or playing through as these kind of pivotal things happened in our lives. So, Adrian, I'm going to go ahead and give the floor over to you. What is your time of game?
yeah, sure. So, my time of game is this game called Final Fantasy XI, which is an MMORPG that I believe debuted in North America in 2003, but I didn't start playing until 2004. And the most pivotal moment came around 2008, I want to say, when I was like 4 years deep into it, which I never thought I would play a game for that long. First off, I'm so used to console games at the time where it's like you beat it in 30 hours and you're done. But Final Fantasy XI, it sucked me in because I was just talking to people nonstop, and the game's fun, but I was meeting people and friends, not only in the game, but in real life. And it was weird because at the time, like, I was fairly quiet in high school and all throughout the first part of college. And this was the first time that I really felt like I was being more of myself in a venue that allowed me to be myself,
So this was 2008.
Yeah.
And how? Oh, I guess I don't need to ask you that. But what? Were you in middle school? I don't know if you're sensitive to that or not. But were you?
No,
in
no,
middle
I'm not
school,
sensitive to
high
that.
school, or?
At this point, so this is actually cool about this. At this point, I had gone through high school easy, and I went through the first few years of college, the first 2 years, and I was like, "This sucks. This is not me." So I stopped going.
Okay.
That comes back later on. But at this point, I was hanging out with my friends that I had met. This is weird, from Final Fantasy XI.
Oh, dude,
So we
I
became
met, like,
roommates.
Dude, I was meeting like kids online when I was like fucking 14 years old.
Oh,
That's
okay. I thought you were gonna say like still. I got worried.
Oh, yeah. Still meeting kids online.
2 episodes in a row. Just
You're nice.
Damn it.
Can't afford alcohol? I got you.
God.
But yeah, like, it was weird that these people that were foreign to me became my roommates, and to this day are still my best friends. And because I was so shy and introverted, and I still am. I'm introverted with extrovert tendencies. The more I played Final Fantasy XI, the more apt I was to actually bring my accomplishments from the game to like real life. So I was starting a guild in the game, which they call it a link shell, and we were getting pretty well known. I myself was becoming a really well known ranger in the game, like server renown, server Rambo. Hello, Win2's here, and right, esport athlete. What can I say? And this is the first time I actually felt major accomplishment in a long time. Because I used to be like a little bit of an athlete, like every kid feels like they were. I had ribbons and trophies and that kind of stuff. But in the game, I was getting so many accomplishments and feedback and friends that like it takes you out of real life. But I knew I couldn't do it forever, so I wanted to like mirror that accomplishment in real life. So I wanted to start accomplishing more things in real life. So the confidence I got from the game started to leak out a bit. And the one soporific attitude of Adrian became this louder and more funny version. You know how sometimes when like you tell a joke and you say it quietly and you're not sure if it's gonna be good or not, so you just kind of whisper it like, because you're scared of the reaction. Well, now it's becoming more bold. Right, here's the punchline. Or you say it quiet enough somebody else can hear it, and then they say it and they get the laugh for you, and you're like, all right, man, come on. That was my joke. Because now I was doing more of that. Like I was the one saying, gather around everybody, it's story time, and everyone's drunk in college and I'm blah, 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 blah. Punchline, and the whole room laughed, and I was like, oh my God, it works in real life too. I can be a good person in real life, not only in the game. And so the game was giving me confidence to be able to mirror the accomplishments that I had in game in real life. I mean, I touched a girl.
Wow. Tell
Yeah.
us more about this.
Yeah,
Well,
tell me what it's like.
Well, it's funny because boy, I have some details for you. So the first
can't
4
wait.
years, I had some encounters before of like being with people, but I never like did anything because I wanted to play Final Fantasy XI. This is a true story. Like there were two different occasions, and I've told it on my stream before, from 2004 to 2008, where different women were like, hey, blah, 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 intimacy, and we're all alone. And I'm like, yeah, but what about Final Fantasy XI? I legit one time had someone in my room who's unbuttoning her pants, and I wanted to show her Final Fantasy XI because it was a cool game.
Oh my God.
Wow. How'd
Yeah.
So hot.
Yeah, right? I was pretty naive because I didn't think, like, no one wants to have sex with me. I want to play Final Fantasy XI.
You're like, why is this girl changing her pants?
Yeah.
Right, like, your panties are exposed. What are you doing?
Why
That's
would
not how
wanna
you level
sleep
up.
with me? You haven't even seen my character yet.
You think that's hot?
Yeah.
Wait till you see this relic weapon.
You're like, you're like, oh man, I had to do something really impressive. Let me boot up my computer.
Right, exactly. And it became so weird because the confidence that I had from this game at the time in this summer, I became a bit more charismatic. Their words, not mine, where this one girl who had eyes like Alexandra Daddario or Zoe Deschanel, and she was like, hey, do you want to come over? And I'm like, you know what? I think Final Fantasy XI can take a day off for once. You know,
Yeah.
Why not? We'll just go over and what's she call these days? We'll watch Netflix, right? Or the modern day equivalent.
Yeah.
And so, I went over there and I'm thinking to myself, all right, what will my in-game character do? He would, in Final Fantasy XI, it's a grinding game. It's the long burn, which is what
You don't
this
want
was.
that. That's
It wasn't that long burn. But
not the burn.
we were on the couch and we were just talking, and next thing you know, it's like in the movies, and it felt weird because we just started making out.
Yeah.
And in my head, for once, I wasn't thinking about Final Fantasy XI. I mean, I kind of was, but not enough to leave because I had no laptop anyway.
Sure.
But like,
I have a question
sorry, I
for
just
you.
need a breath.
So this character, no, I get it.
Get yourself worked up from your memories.
The character, the character that you were playing at the time, were you role playing, or was it just more like did you consider like a persona for your character at all when you were playing? Do you remember? And I guess my question is that, was that persona or whatever your persona, whatever parts of you were exuding in that game, it sounds like that's what was kind of pushing you to be more comfortable with yourself in real life. because it was being accepted in the game?
Yeah, I would say so to a degree, because what consequences do you have in the game? It's a trial, so to speak, you know, to take pieces of you and put them out there in front of a large audience of people who don't know you, you know, people that you're leveling with and people that you come to call friend. And so it became a chance for me to kind of like have a training dummy, so to speak, to see what is the real me like, and just putting out pieces of me that I ordinarily thought might be considered weird or odd, like being able to speak with a certain vernacular. Like I like typing near perfectly if I can, you know, case sensitivity and that kind of stuff. So doing that in chat and seeing the kind of way people receive that. So I guess in a way it was kind of like role playing, not in the sense of like, you know, you have an entire background story for your character,
Right.
but being able to bring out your own personality and being able to say a certain thing, people to act a certain way, being able to have open discussions about things that you find interesting and you're not sure if other people do. I mean, if it's like 3 a.m. and there's nothing to do, you'd be surprised how often you start discussing things from how delicious is Dr. Pepper to stem cell research. And so you start saying these things and you start realizing that there are people out there who you don't have to tailor yourself to. You can more or less be yourself and see who migrates towards you and is willing to be a real friend. So it was role playing in a sense, and it helped prepare me that summer, even to this day. That entire summer helped create the baseline of the kind of person that I always was, but was kind of afraid to expose myself to.
Right.
That's awesome.
From that summer, was there any, outside of like touching girls and telling jokes, was there any like defining moment from that summer where you would say that was like the pivotal part where you grew comfortable with yourself, that was it, where you were one-upping in real life similarly to your exceptional character in the game, and you were like, you know what, I got this, like I'm really truly am mirroring my accomplishments in the game?
You know, I think a lot of it was, there were a few moments. There was one I can think of right now, actually, where I guess I was learning to, it sounds weird, it sounds stupid. I was learning to think more, you know, more thinking out loud. Like I lost my phone one night. There was these things in Dayton, Ohio, Fairborn, Ohio, called May Days, AKA everyone gets drunk for a weekend days on the campus or whatever. And I left my cell phone at the time. It was a Kyocera flip phone. You know, it had the polyphonic ringtones. Boop, 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 boop. And I left it and I was like, shit, this sucks. And so I called the number and I texted it and someone had my phone. They were like, oh, this is your phone? Do you want it back? And I was like, yes. And like
No,
$20.
I don't, sir.
Right. You know, okay, keep it. Sure. They were like $20. And so I'm like, $20 from my own phone. You know, what am I going to do? At this point, I have the charisma, I have the confidence, I have the personality, the attitude. I'm starting to run more and be more active. And now it's time to test my mental prowess to interact with people that I necessarily may not like people who have my phone who shouldn't. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll give you $20. Meet me by the basketball courts, by the apartment. It's not going to go down how you think it's going to go down, all right? There's no fisticuffs. So I called the police. And I had them sitting in like CSI style in my apartment complex, and it was like subterranean too, so like peeking through the windows above like the dirt window. And sure enough, they showed up. It went outside with a bold face, confronted them, and I got my phone back. And then later on I saw them again out in the open, and I felt like old me would have been afraid, you know, just the consequences maybe of it, but the confidence that I had from playing the game and having people accept me and receive me in such a way that was so positive, that I went out there bold-faced and brave. And it sounds silly, played basketball, and they didn't say a word to me. I just, as you exude confidence, you know, there was no like tucking shoulders down. You just look at them and they might scoff and they walked away. And that was when I was like, man, life is changing. I felt like I was a ranger IRL from Final Fantasy XI.
Fuck yeah, dude, you're a b-ball ranger.
You changed your job. Now you're the ranger.
Yeah, I was like, you did it. You're the true ranger, Adrian.
Yeah.
So that was sick, you know. The confidence was there, the charisma, the attitude, the intelligence. I mean, at that point, I wanted to start going back to school, which I ended up doing as well. You know, I finished college later on, which was nice and expensive, still is. But like this game and this summer was just, I can't tell you how pivotal it is to this day, even like hosting. Like sometimes people will say, what's it like to host on stage with these different people? And to me, when they're backstage in the green room, I just kind of keep to myself when they're on stage. I talk to them as if we're talking like now, the way we're speaking, because I'm just so used to speaking to different people from different venues, from different conventions online with different attitudes. When you've been on the internet for this long, you've seen, we were talking about it earlier, you've seen yeah, every attitude you can think of, every personality you can think of, that after a certain amount of time, people are just people at that point, and you just kind of adapt to the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
Damn
awesome.
it! I should have played Final Fantasy 11.
Oh man, it's still going on.
Yeah, you still play it?
So I quit after 8 years, and my one friend, Verily Vale, was like, "Hey man, Final Fantasy," and he was one of the guys that I met way back when I first started playing. And like any addictive drug, you need your hit back. I felt like what's his name from Lord of War. Like that was my Africa cocaine outline. I was like, yeah, we're going back. I went back and started playing it, and it's a nice refresher of all this. It's a nice reminder of how far I've come, because anytime you play a game with that much nostalgia, you think back to the summer of 2008 and what your life was like before, when you were the quiet, meek, mousy, not so confident, non-girl touching person to the person I am today. And so it came a long way, and it tempered me for hard situations too. The game makes you think. It's a really hard game.
Right.
Like you might go 6 hours.
For like 2 days.
It's a long time for that game. How was your experience?
I liked it, but I think that I purposefully avoid MMOs just because of the addictive nature of them.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that if
Can't get away from
I
it.
was playing an MMO the same time that I was considering living in a cave, it might be a dangerous combination. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to actually quit my
Live-
job to live in a cave. But the day that I think that I do, if I'm playing an MMO, I might be in trouble. So it was a quick like a tag for me, just touched, and I was like, this is fun. It might be too fun. Jumping out, must run away.
Sure.
But I mean, I've definitely had similar experiences as you with just interneting and like being around people and learning that, things don't have to hurt, because if you know who you are, then you're going to be okay. You know what I mean?
I think there's a weird dichotomy with that as well, because I felt like I went the opposite direction, where a lot of times in MMOs, it might make you closer to your own safe harbor of not wanting to interact with people because of the person you've created online is the person that you want to be only there, and in real life you don't want to bother to speak to anyone or interact with anyone. And there's articles and people in news sites exclaiming that this new generation doesn't know how to go outside and speak with people, or even like dare I say on Twitch or in social media, everyone's trying to well, I shouldn't say everyone, that's unfair to say. People in general, some are looking to adopt certain personalities because it's the ones that they see that they want to be, or the one that they think is most likely to be accepted within an entire community. So you see a lot of carbon copies or doppelgangers of certain personalities that exist, and you don't get to see the real person behind them. And I've been around some people that I meet the real them, and I'm like, the real you is so great. And I wish everyone else had a chance to speak to you the same way that I've got to speak with you, because it's like in Final Fantasy 11, the same thing. You got to learn to just go out there and be yourself, as long as it's not harmful, and just see what it attracts. You throw it to a wall and see who it attracts. And I feel sad sometimes when I see people afraid to be themselves and afraid to be the person that they want to be, for fear of the reception they might get, and the friends they thought they had, they may not be there anymore.
You know what I think you need to do? I think
Tell
you
me.
need to start stealing people's phones and giving them the same opportunity.
Yes.
And just
That's
confronting them.
everybody. The podcast, we're not continuing the podcast. We're now the vigilantes of social esteem, and we are going to
do-gooders.
steal your fucking phones and give you the opportunity to call the cops on us.
I can't wait for PAX West
I
when
know.
all these phones go missing on Twitter. Where are these phones at? If you
No
want
one's
your phone
posted on
back,
social media.
meet me at
Yeah.
Denny's
Yep. Meet me at
Me-
Denny's
at 2 a.m.
I'm gonna be eating those seasoned fries with ranch.
That's the best part. They'll show up scared and meek, like, hello, do you have my phone? I'll be like, yep, and I got an all-star Grand Slam breakfast for you, too. Let's sit down and talk.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be great. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Just
You
a
wanna do
life
this?
coach who starts with cell phones.
All
Right, exactly.
The only thing is, despite Denny's being fairly inexpensive, that's a lot of Denny's to buy. So be looking for our GoFundMe for Grand Slam breakfasts for people that were going to be stealing their phones.
It's a great idea.
And you'll be helping better the world with one phone stolen at a time.
Use coupon code Backspace Nomads for 10% off your Denny's order. Certainly.
Yeah, guys.
All right, Adrian.
those
Well, that was
codes.
awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your time of game with us.
Thanks for having me.
You can find Adrian on Twitter at Okaydrian or on twitch.tv/Okaydrian. That's going to do it for episode 14 of the Backspace Nomads podcast. You can find us on Twitter, same name. Well, just Backspace Nomads. But that's going to do it. We'll see you guys on the next podcast. Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
Bye.
Later.
Bye.